Myself, I am Ratnabhushan, trained motivator and guide to IAS aspirant, international motivational speaker, leadership trainer, CEO, coach, political strategist, and policy advisor. The spinning wheel means national consciousness and the contribution by every individual to a definite constructive national work. This is the quote of Mahatma Gandhi from the book The Words of Gandhi, written by Richard Attenborough. The source of news is Hindu newspaper. Russia's COVID-19 vaccine is safe study. It generated a strong immune response and did not produce serious adverse reactions during the trial. The two-spot vaccine being developed by Russia's Gamaleya Research Institute generated a strong immune response and did not produce serious adverse reaction in 76 volunteers who were inculcated in a trial, according to the results of the study reported online The Lancet Friday. This is the first time that details of the early human studies of the phase half trials to check the vaccine safety and ability to generate an immune response of the vaccine have been reported in peer reviewed journal. The two components. The vaccine consists of two components, recombinant adenovirus type 26 or AD26 vector and recombinant adenovirus type 5 or AD5 vector, both carrying the gene for severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2 spike glycoprotein. Adenovirus commonly affected humans and primates and have emerged as a sought-after platform to develop a vaccine against COVID-19. The CHAdOx1 vaccine candidate developed by Oxford University is based on a chimpanzee adenovirus vector platform, and the Beijing Institute of the Biotechnology and the CanSino Biologics Inc. of China too are developing a vaccine in an adenovirus platform. Last month, Russian scientists said they had begun phase 3 trials for their vaccine in 40,000 volunteers, results in which are likely to be publicly known by November. In the Lancet, the scientists said the vaccines were given to a selected volunteers 21 days apart. The spacing meant to generate a booster response and the checked for whether it inducted protective antibodies as well as if managed to stimulate to body cells into producing a class of cells that can be destroyed viral cells, a process known as humoral response. Both of these happened, the scientists claim, and no serious adverse events were reported. Kaziranga said to be expanded by 3,053 hectares. The Assam government has approved for the addition of 30.53 square kilometer to the 884 square kilometer Kaziranga National Park. The additional areas spanning two districts, Nagaon and Sonipatpur, would make the Kaziranga National Park and Tiger Reserve grow to 1,085.53 square kilometer. The core area of KNPT are 430 square kilometer. A Forest Department spokesperson and preliminary notifications were issued for 7th, 8th and 9th additions on Thursday. The additions include encroachment, evicted areas and suitable wildlife habitat on river island, sandbars that are vulnerable to encroachment. It is a move to consolidate the wildlife areas, anticipating better wildlife conservation and reduction in human-wildlife negative interactions in the future, said KNPTR Director P. Kumar. He added that 3 additions are habitat corridors and would help provide connectivity to Orang and the Nameri National Park across the river Brahmaputra, besides the hills of the Karbi along to the south of the park, where the rhino, tiger, deer, other national refuge during the floods. Women police can save J&K children. Prime Minister, they can stop them from taking the wrong path. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Friday said women police officers could play a vital role in the preventing children of Jammu and Kashmir from taking the wrong path. We have to work towards stopping children from joining the wrong path. Women officers could counsel their mothers and bring back to the children to mainstream. Women force can help in stopping children in their tracks, he stated. Mr. Modi was addressing Dikshant ceremony or passing out parade for the Indian Police Services probationers of the Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel National Police Academy through video conference. Union Home Minister Amit Shah, Minister of State G. Kishan Reddy and some Secretary Ajay Kumar Bhalla joined the event from the Delhi. 131 officers pass out. In all, 131 IPS officers, including 28 women, concluded the 2-year training on Friday. Modi interacted with some of the IPS probationers and asked them about their background and education. While interacting with the J&K cadet, Tanushri, who was a degree in the textiles designing, he said, terror includes incidents are main news in the newspaper every day. Jammu, Kashmir Valley, Ladakh and Kargil also have other speciality. They are lovely and nice people, and we believe that with both everyone's effort we'll able to bring back happiness in their lives. Kashmir has a unique strength. Every house has a deft hand, and the souls and the handicraft they can make it's phenomenal. He asked the officer to make small group of the women and use those skills to bond with them. The union government revoked the special status J&K under Article 370 from the Constitution on 6th August last year and bifurcated the state into a union territory, J&K and Ladakh. Mr. Modi asked young police officers to be conscious of their image once they stepped out of the academy, as first impression is the last impression. Dignity regained in Calcutta Oasis. Former West Bengal leader Jyoti Basu made a request to Mother Teresa, and several women inmates finally found peace. It was 1996. I was on one of my visit to Calcutta to spend a little time with Mother Teresa. She had been very unwell and in and out of hospital. I found her sitting in a wheelchair outside her small office. I presented her in updated Hindi edition of my biography I presented her an undated editions of the biography of her. There was a queue of the people waiting to meet her, giving shape to an idea. She introduced me to a few monks visiting from Japan. She then asked me if I had been to Santidan, where those monks from Japan. The story began, she said, when she responded to a request from the West Bengal Chief Minister Jyoti Basu. She always prefaced his name with the words, "My friend, mother, take care of some very unfortunate women. They have been long years under confinement in institutions attached to a Kolkata jail." When she went, she found several hundred inmates, all women, in great distress. Some had been confinement for 40 years. She agreed to do something. In her practical way, she asked the Chief Minister for land. She would create the institution herself. That was a few years ago. Sister Bela took me around. There were 3 dormitories on the first floor and a small recreational center. A few small workshops. The rooms were broad, bright, and airy, unlike the sisters' rooms, which were Spartan on amount of their woes of poverty. Here there were bright and pleasant dormitories with ceiling fans and the mosquito nets. Colorful bed covers had been especially women by the leprosy community in Titagarh. There were real and paper flowers everywhere, and not a pin was out of the place. The utensils in the kitchens were spotless. The women cooked their own meals and cleaned up after. There was no sign of any volunteers who were a feature of their other homes. Here, Sister Bella encouraged them to keep themselves and their environment clean is necessary for a part of occupational therapy. As I walked past groups of inmates in the grounds, I had expected to encounter sullenness and hostility. Instead of everywhere, there were smiles and namaste or a wave. When they came here 2 years ago, they would not put on the clothes. Said Sister Bella. When we tried to go near them, they would cover with their. Now they do not move themselves. Some of these women have been in jail words of the years on the end. We have come very far in this time. It is only when they are really sick or the feeling low that they go inside to the light. Rajnath Singh meets counterpart V in Moscow, Chinese counterpart V in Moscow. China had sought meeting in the sidelines of the SCO Defense Minister Conference. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh met his Chinese counterpart Wei Fenghe on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization (SCO) Defense Minister meeting in Moscow on Friday. Details of the meeting, however, were not known. Mr. Singh and Mr. Wei met in Moscow 9:30 p.m. India time, a different source said. The Chinese side sought the meeting between Mr. Singh and their minister on Thursday, a second source said. In comments on Thursday, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar also confirmed that he would meet his Chinese counterpart Wei Yi at the SCO Foreign Minister meet in Moscow on September 10. Mr. Singh is on the three-day visit to Russia for the combined meeting of the Defense Minister SCO and Collective Security Treaty of Organization as CSTO and the Commonwealth Independent State CIS member state in the Commonwealth commemoration of 75th anniversary of the victory in the Second World War. Earlier, he was in Russia in June to attend the Victory Day parade of the Second World War, which was also attended by Mr. Wei, but there was no bilateral meeting. Parliament stifled business and world peace. Despite the limited monsoon session and constrained, MPs must scrutinize the government's work and guide policy. The upcoming monsoon session of the Parliament from the September 14 is emblematic of the issues of the faced by the legislature during the novel coronavirus pandemic. How do these bodies fulfill their central role in the democracy while maintaining health safety of the legislature and the staff working in the legislature? Several states have held very short sessions, some met just for a day, in which they ratified a number of the ordinances and hardly questions any executive actions over the last few months. Parliament will maintain physical distancing, has truncated the 0 hour in which member raise issue pertinent to their constitutions and of wider public interest, and concealed questions hour in which ministers have to answer questions raised by members. At the risk of stating the obvious, let us quickly recap the roles of the key organs of the state. The government has the mandate to take decisions and perform various public tasks. It is accountable to the legislature, which can question it and an extremate step even replace it. The legislature is accountable to citizens through regular elections and can be voted out if it is not perceived to making laws and policies beneficial to the public. Finally, constitutional courts are expected constitutional courts are expected constitutional court are expected constitutional courts are expected constitutional courts are expected constitutional courts are expected to ensure all the actions are made within the boundaries of the constitution and laws made by the legislature. And these are the few lines which I am going to share with you. Demerits of the parliamentary system. Merits of the parliamentary system. Demerits as well as merits of the parliamentary system. This fact I have taken from Lakshmikant Polity book. The parliamentary system of government has the following merits. Harmony between legislation and executive. The greatest advantage of the parliamentary system is that it ensures harmonious relationship and cooperation between the legislative and executive organs of the government. The executive is a part of the legislature and both are interdependent at work. As a result, there is a less scope for disputes and conflicts between the two organs. Responsible government. By its very nature, and parliamentary system establishes a responsible government. The ministers are responsible to the parliament for all their acts of the omission and commission. The parliament exercises control over the ministers through the various devices like a questions hour, discussion, adjournment motion, no confidence motion, etc. Prevents despotism. Under this system, the executive authority is vested in a group of individuals, council of ministers, and not a single person. This is dispersal of the authority checks the dictatorial tendency of the executive. Moreover, the executive is responsible to parliament and can be removed by a no confidence motion. Fourth, ready alternative government. In case the ruling party loses its majority, the head of the state can invite a opposition party to form the government. This means an alternative government can be formed without fresh elections. Hence, Dr. Jennings says, the leader of opposition is the alternative prime minister. The leader of opposition is alternative prime minister. The leader of the opposition is alternative prime minister. representation. In parliamentary system, the executive consists of a group of individuals, that is, ministers who are representative of the people. Hence, it is possible to provide representation to all sections and regions in the government. The Prime Minister, while selecting the ministers, can take this factor into consideration. Demerits of the parliamentary system. In spite of the above merit, the parliamentary system suffered from the following demerits. Unstable government. The parliamentary system does not provide a stable government. There is no guarantee that a government can survive its future. The ministers depend on the mercy of the majority legislature for their continuity and survival in office. A no confidence motion of the political defections or evils of the multi-party coalition can make the government unstable. The government headed by Morarji Desai, Charan Singh, BP Singh, Charan Sekhar, Dev Gowda and I.K. Gujral are some of such examples. No continuity of the policies. The parliamentary system is not a conducive for the formulation and implementations of the long-term policies. This is due to the uncertainty of the tenure of the government. A change in the ruling party is usually followed by changes in the policies of the government. For example, the Janta government headed by Morarji Desai in 1997 reversed a large number of the policies of the previous Congress government. The same was repeated by the Congress government after it came back to power in 1980. Dictatorship of the cabinet. When the ruling party enjoys the absolute majority in the parliament, the cabinet becomes autocratic and exercises nearly unlimited powers. H.J. Lasky says that the parliamentary system gives the executive an opportunity for the tyranny. Ramsay Muir, the former British Prime Minister, also complained for the dictatorship of the cabinet. This phenomenon was witnessed during the era of Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi against separation of powers. In the parliamentary system, the legislature and the executive are together and inseparable. The cabinet also acts as the leader of the legislative as well as executive. As a basalt points, the cabinet is a icon that joins the buckle and binds the executive and the legislative departments together. Hence, the whole system of government goes against the latter and the spirit in the theory of separations of powers. In fact, there is no fusion of the powers. Government by amateurs. The parliamentary system is not conducive to the administrative efficiency as the ministers are not experts in their field. The Prime Minister has a limited choice in the selections of the minister. His choice is restricted to the members of parliament alone and does not extend to the external talent. Moreover, the ministers devote most of their time to parliamentary work, cabinet meetings and parliamentary activities. Now let us compare the parliamentary and presidential system in terms of the